Hey makers, this is Dhruvin and I welcome you all to my new segment Talk with Devs. This is the segment where I'm inviting industry experts across the globe and we are discussing couple of good things throughout this session. Today's session is also one of the interesting session. In this episode, we are going to talk about how we can build next generation Power Apps with Lowcodera's PCF component. Right now, we all are developing our Canvas apps with the traditional approaches. We all are using out of the box components, and most of the time, customers are not happy with the user interface which is provided in the out of the box manner. So, how the next generation Power Apps will look like, and how eye catching and so beautiful Power Apps we can create with the Lowcodera's PCF component. That's the main agenda for next 50 minutes of this session. This is the full-fledged session where we are going to talk about everything, how the next generation Power Apps are looking like, what are the components which are offered by Lowcodera, and many more things. So stay tuned till the end so you will get to know everything throughout this next 15 minutes. Now, in order to present this entire session, we have our industry expert today with us, Mr. Rahan Arif. Hi Rahan, good morning.
Hi there, good morning, afternoon to you. Thanks for having me, Dhruvin. How are you?
I'm absolutely fine. Thank you so much for joining us today. So, first of all, a very warm welcome to my show. So, in next 50 minutes, people are going to know lot more about next generation Power Apps. Do you want to add anything here about how the next generation Power Apps are looking like, or what people are going to learn in next 50 minutes from you, specifically for Lowcodera's PCF component? If you can just give us some hint, then we can proceed with your intro and next few things.
Amazing. First of all, look, it's a real honor for me to be on episode one of season two. So really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you and your views about Lowcodera today. Um, we're going to have a bunch of demos and content which we're going to run through hopefully in a few moments. But yeah, Lowcodera essentially aims to allow you to fundamentally do more with what you can do in out-of-the-box Power Apps today. And where we say deliver the next generation of Power Apps, we'll hopefully be able to demonstrate what we mean by that in a few minutes' time. So really looking forward to it and speaking to you.
Thank you so much, Rahan, for this wonderful agenda for today's session. So, before we get started, let me just introduce a couple of things about Rahan. So, first of all, Rahan is subject matter expert for Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, and he leads digital transformation across a range of programs and industries. And his specialty is specifically in Microsoft 365 and Power Platform, and he is the CEO at Connected People as well as founder of Lowcodera, and he is based on UK. So this is the official LinkedIn address of Rahan. So anytime if you wanted to know something about next generation Power Apps or PCF component for Lowcodera, you can directly reach out to him using his LinkedIn address. Also, all of these links are available in the description box as well. Also, one more important thing I wanted to share with all of you, that whatever the documentation, whatever the website which Rahan shares throughout this demo, all the links are always available in the description box. Feel free to check the description box and connect to Lowcodera directly from there. So without me talking more, let's get started with our today's session. So we will start with some question specifically for Rahan, and after that he can take forward from there. So let me just stop sharing my screen and let's get started with the question. So, Ran, first thing that I wanted to ask you here is what is Lowcodera, what Lowcodera offers, and how the next generation Power Apps are looking like. Like currently with the traditional Power Apps, whatever we are developing, how it is different for the next generation Power Apps and Lowcodera's PCF component. If you can show us like how it will look like as an end outcome and give us the brief intro about what Lowcodera offers and what type of PCF components are there, that would be very helpful to us.
Sure, absolutely. I think to help answer that question comprehensively, I'm going to share my screen. I think Lowcodera is very much one of those products where you have to see it to truly understand it. I can spend a lot of time talking about it, but I think the best way to inform your viewers is to actually do so by way of practical demonstration while we have the conversation. So if it's okay with you, what I'd like to do is share my screen.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yes, perfect.
So Lowcodera, our strapline is next level Power Apps. And the way we do that is by introducing a set of add-on components for Power Apps, which allow you to do two things. One benefit is to improve the user experience in your Power Apps. And we do this by introducing a comprehensive set of UI components which app makers can use when building their applications. And of course, their users will then consume those when they run their apps. So when we talk about Lowcodera, one side of it is our UI components, and the other side, as we'll go on to show in a few moments, is our data visualization components. The screen you've got in front of you, I was thinking about whether I should do a PowerPoint, but I decided to use our own components to deliver this presentation in a far more interactive way. And so the screen that you see in front of you at the moment was built in its entirety using Lowcodera components. So the look and feel of this is not necessarily achievable using out-of-the-box components. So one example here is our cards component, which is on this screen at the moment, showcasing some of the key benefits behind Lowcodera. So I just mentioned one there about our UI components. And our UI components allow you to dramatically change the look of your Power Apps with our controls, be it card controls, some of the navigation stuff, which I'll give a more in-depth demo on in a second, or our drop-down control here, which you can see, which is pretty nice. It supports iconography, allows me to, in this case, flick between these different benefits, which I'd like to talk about. So we mentioned UI components. As you can see here on screen, hopefully, we've got a bunch of data visualization components which allow you to connect with your data natively in Power Apps and present that in very engaging ways to your end users without any dependency on third-party solutions or using any other products. You can actually do all of this visualization directly in your Power Apps now through Lowcodera. The other thing which is really good and positive about Lowcodera is we are starting to offer a whole bunch of starter kits and application templates which users can download through the Lowcodera admin portal, which we'll be talking more about later on. And that really allows them to get started very quickly and delivers faster time to value on their Power Apps. So in the course of going through these demonstrations, we'll be seeing a number of different Lowcodera components and demos, and what you've got in front of you at the moment is certainly one of those. One of our other components which people seem to like is our navigation bar along the top. And what's great about our navigation bar is that it supports this flyout menu, and often users have very complex navigation requirements with lots of screens in their app perhaps, or linkages to third-party places, websites, and they want to try and cram that into a nice navigation system in their Power App. And that's actually quite difficult to do and time consuming. The idea is with Lowcodera components, you can quickly add them to your app, configure them, and move on to the more perhaps challenging parts of building your apps, your power effects, expressions, and it really is a time saver. Yes. So now I'm going to run you through some demos of some end outcomes which are achievable in Lowcodera once you put together our components. And then what I think we'll do is after that we'll break it down into individual components, talk more about the features of them, and we can then learn perhaps how to get going with them as well. So let's start with a use case around showing a dashboard experience inside of your Power Apps. And so we've got an example of an app here which is geared around a sales scenario. And the first thing you'll notice is a whole bunch of charts. These are really charts native to PowerApps. These are not embedded or iframes or any wizardry like that. These are our components wired up to real data in a data source. And so there's a range of chart types, as we'll see in Lowcodera available. But one of the things which we're really proud of, and the key benefit, I would say, or one of the key benefits certainly with Lowcodera, you often have requirements, client requirements, where you clearly want to capture your data in PowerApps, and that's something PowerApps has always done really, really well through its whole forms infrastructure and your ability to collect data, edit data, add data to your data source. Whenever it's come to then presenting your data or trying to do any form of analytics, typically users have had to move to something like Power BI or link through to somewhere else to visualize that data after it's been edited. The beauty behind Lowcodera is we can bring all of that together into one user experience. And to demonstrate that, here's a chart here which is plotting average income. And through this toggle here, it brings up one of our other grid components, and we've made this editable in this scenario here, and I can immediately change the data here in real time, hit save, and you can see that reflected right away in this chart without any delay. There's no need to wait for any sort of data refresh elsewhere or to reload the app. The way this app has been built is that data is instantly committed to the data source, and you can see the results of that reflected in real time against that. So what this example is really showing is the ability to streamline those steps between data capture and data visualization and have all of that experience realized for your users in PowerApps. I'm sure we'll be showing more features as we talk more in depth about the components, but let's just say we wanted to implement dark mode. You can see a lot of our chart components do support that, and through that switch we can instantly see a dark mode flavor of this app instantly. So that's just one example, Dhruvin, of achieving an outcome using Lowcodera components. And I'm sure you'll agree this certainly wasn't or isn't possible to do in any way using out-of-the-box
Exactly.
PowerApps today.
Absolutely.
So you can see here, just another point which I failed to mention is that our charts are fully interactive, just like you'd expect with other solutions. You can hover over things, you can use the legend to filter stuff in and out, and you can see our charts are beautifully animated as you hover over things, deselect things. All of it gives a pretty nice end user experience. And of course, these experiences are not just for desktop apps. You can also have the chart components in your mobile apps, or if you're using the responsive infrastructure and you know how to do that, then of course you can build responsive apps as well. So if I perhaps go back to my showcase, and what I will do is go to the same example of this very same app, but give you a demonstration of what it looks like in a mobile app. And you can see here that same app is looking pretty nice on the mobile version. I think you'll agree here as well. There you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah. One other feature which again, I forgot to mention, there's so many features I do forget, forgive me, is the ability to allow your end users to download these charts as well. And so we've got a little button here on the top right, and we offer our users the ability to be able to download these components in a few different formats, including SVG. And we also allow them to download the underlying data for that particular chart as well. So that's there as well. So those are two examples, and I think these two were more focused around the visualization capability, let's just say, that Lowcodera provides. But I think we've also got an example here of achieving some more fancier UI in your apps. And so pretty basic app. Often you want to present stuff in lists, and of course there's the out-of-the-box gallery control, which you can style up and use. In fact, what we've done here is combined the out-of-box gallery control with our card component, and in this scenario we're presenting a nicely styled list of suppliers here, and you can plot all of these things on our card, which is highly configurable, supports HTML formatting, and in the what is Lowcodera PowerApps slide that I did for you earlier, that's also using our card, so you can see how flexible the look and feel of that can be. One other neat component, which is a particular favorite of mine, is our vertical navigation system, which is presented here on the left. And this provides a very professional solution to navigation for your Power Apps. So I've just collapsed it there, and you can expand it, and that creates a very nice effect and space-saving solution for your users. It is easy to configure and supports multi-level navigation being defined, and it supports lots of different colors and themes, which we might get time to show you later. But I just wanted to put that one in there as well, because I think the real power behind Lowcodera is when you start combining many of our components together to create an overall better user experience. Does that make sense, Dhruvin?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I really love the way it created the app, because if I imagine like with out of the box manner with this navigation part, like how difficult it is to achieve, like even if we go with the out of the box component approach, even that time as a developer we need to do lots of work, need to define lots of property, and I can see how smoothly it runs on the app and provides a professional look and feel to the end user. So this is really amazing. I especially love this navigation bar and specifically this card component. And also the another thing that you have shown into earlier demo, which was like editing the data in the real time. So on the left pan the data is opened and everything is, you know, just on the fly. So this is really amazing, and the grid look and feel is also looking phenomenal. Like if I can imagine like how can I achieve the similar user interface with out of the box gallery and all, it's a bit difficult to achieve. And even like buttons over here, I can say specifically like save and cancel button with the icon inside it, that's amazing. Like I can't imagine like with the regular button if I can achieve this kind of user interface. And in the professional world, when we are developing the apps for the professional company, big MNCs, at the time this user interface makes the most important part. And I truly believe like with this component is truly a game changer, and we can achieve very good UI with the help of this.
Thanks. And yeah, I mean, to echo your earlier points, I've been building Power Apps now for many years, for many clients and many customers around the globe. And I can't tell you how many hours I've spent over the last few years just building trivial things like navigation systems, hours and hours trying to achieve a highly polished effect. Very tricky to do, and certainly not to the standard that you get with our components over here with the effects and the animation and the support for iconography. It's all taken care of. And I suppose the why question is just as much as important as the what. We've briefly touched on what is Lowcodera, but the why is very much around building these Power Apps for many years and coming up against many kind of constraints at particular points with client requirements. And essentially for the last 18 months set about trying to solve some of these problems, and that's where Lowcodera has come from. And what my first port of call was to look at solutions in the community, and there are some amazing offerings out there on the PCF gallery. But of course, the PCF gallery is very much a community-driven effort, and it relies on people's spare time and goodwill. And there's some fantastic content up there, which I'd encourage people to look at. With Lowcodera, it was very much my aspiration to create something premium, which people could rely on. This is what we do. I have a team in place. We'll talk more about that later. Perhaps when we talk about our roadmap and our plans for down the road with Lowcodera. But I just wanted to make the point that this didn't come from a vacuum in any way. It was driven by a real need to have some of these features so that these benefits could be passed on to customers. So I just thought I'd add that in there, Dhruvin. Okay. So, Dhruvin, how about we talk more in depth about components now and give our users more of an idea about specific components and the range of components we have available to them through Lowcodera?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Let's start with our UI components then, because we certainly demonstrated quite a few already, but perhaps we just need to just talk about these in a bit more detail. So I think we've showcased buttons already, but I'll just quickly launch this demo here. And you can see there's many different styles and flavors of buttons. And the great news is users can, within seconds, drag these onto their Canvas apps and configure them using these styles. And of course, PowerApps comes with its own set of buttons, but as with a lot of our UI components, we wanted to provide more options for users to build nicer apps. And of course, with Power Effects and some of the different configurations Lowcodera offers for these components, you're able to do fancier things. So here's our rounded buttons, and if I click on that, you can see a little animation effect which makes that pop up. So we've got settings which control the radius of the buttons, and then you can achieve all sorts of different looks and feels with those configuration options. Dhruvin, feel free to jump in and ask any questions as I go through the next set of demos about components. We've got a lot of demos to go through, so feel free to interject, or otherwise I'm just going to bash through them.
Sure, absolutely.
I think the next one we'll go for is our drop-down component. And our drop-down component, again, similar to the button, offers a range of different styles. And of course, PowerApps comes with a drop-down and a combo box control. What we offer here is something which is a bit more styled. You typically see these types of drop-down menus in pro-grade apps, and that's one of our commitments. It's to really bridge the gap between low code and pro code with our components. No longer should low code in any way be considered inferior when it comes to user experience, and that's one of our sort of raison d'etres behind Lowcodera. We absolutely want to allow citizen developers and low-code developers to achieve just as good-looking apps with very rich functionality through these components. So lots of different styling options.
Yes, it's amazing. Like even with drop down inside, you have icons and then text. So it's amazing. Like truly, it's professional look and feel.
Absolutely. So we support on the point around icons. We support over 1,200 icons. We're integrated with the Font Awesome library, so you can essentially include any of those icons in many of our components. Support icons as we'll go on to see. Let's go for the next one then. So go for our progress bars and then our text box after that. So again, certainly this is not achievable in out-of-the-box PowerApps without significant Power Effects knowledge and things like timer controls and so forth. Often you want to plot task progress or just show how complete something is in a Power App. There's many different use cases which lead you down to finding a solution for doing something like this. This is our progress bar solution, which allows you to plot things like your percentage completion or some sort of score value which you want to represent in the form of a bar. It supports lots of different colors and options for labels, and of course the beauty is you can bind all of this to dynamic data sources should you wish to, as opposed to hard coding everything onto each and every bar. So this is our progress bar component, which you can immediately drag onto your canvas and add to your apps. I've got one more to show, and then we're probably going to show probably our most advanced UI component in a few moments as well. So Textbox is the next one. And you can see forms is probably, building forms is PowerApps' most common use case, which people do almost in every Power App that they build. They build some sort of form. And what we wanted to do, again, with Lowcodera is provide users with a way of generating nice looking forms through our Textbox component. Our text component supports many different configuration options, including a multi-line text box, text boxes. If you're asking users to pop in a password, then that supports masking, as you see here, something that's I don't think supported today in the out-the-box text control. For numeric fields, as you can see here in this fictitious scenario here, I'm being asked for the number of cars I own. In our household, we've actually got 2 cars. I can put in 2, or actually I can use the little buttons on the end to toggle up and down to set that. And you can see one of our buttons there at the bottom as well, just to complete the look of that. So those are some very basic UI components. We previously showcased the navigation components along the top and the vertical navigation component. So Dhruvin, I think you'll agree, just with some of those there, they provide hopefully solutions to give you that professional look and feel. I kind of glossed over the card component as well, but you can see here these immediately add a bit of style and pizzazz to your app as well.
Absolutely.
Yes, so Dhruvin, those are some of our basic UI components.
Mhm.
Did you have any comments, or do you want to see a couple more? I think we've also got our nav bars and date time, which you might be interested in.
Yes, absolutely, Rahan. So we talked about the vertical navbar. So if you can show us some horizontal navbar example, that would be great. And obviously, whenever I'm developing any Power Apps, date picker is one of the biggest concern for any of our client. Like it's not more user friendly every time you need to click button. So I really keen to interest to see like how the Lowcodera's date picker, date time picker component will look like. So please go ahead.
Okay, all right. Well, let's start with the first one. I've got them lined up here for you. So the horizontal nav bar, um, pretty large here in this demo, and obviously you would never have this many nav bars in your app. But this is just showing the different varieties and configuration options which are available in your apps, and they support obviously colors and styling, iconography, and multiple levels. So all of that is there for you to play around with and achieve the look that's going to go with your brand in your app. So pretty straightforward. And if there's time, perhaps we'll go on to a section later on, maybe where we show how easy it is to configure
Perfect.
these components. The other one I think you asked about was the date time picker. And I think one of the frustrations that end users have with the out-of-the-box control is that it can be quite confusing for them to select a date. I've had that feedback plentiful times over the last few years with the out-of-the-box date time picker. And again, this is just a showcase of the different permutations we've got with our date time picker. As you can see, it looks different, very quick to select the dates. You can go by year. You can quickly choose the date that you want. And one of my personal favorite features is the ability to be able to just type in the date as well. So you can see that here, 16th of June. And there's quite a lot of date time controls on here. I think what this demo is trying to show is the different features that we got. I think the first one was just a date. This one's a time picker. So you can see this is quite visual in the way that the user provides the input. And this one, I think, provides both date and time to be input by end users. And we have lots of formatting options which rely on me actually showing you the properties. Maybe we do that later. And yeah, any questions, Dhruvin, on the date picker?
Yes, absolutely. So, look, this look and feel is looking very nicely in the desktop mode. But how about the mobile? Like, we have a small screen, so at that time,
Sure.
which type of UI it provides with specifically date picker?
Sure, yeah, I forgot to mention this one here. There's so many on screen at the moment. Yes, so we do have a mode for mobile. The date picker does adjust to screen size, and this is the sort of native look which I've just demonstrated. And as you can see here, this look here is very compact and finger friendly. And it's really easy to input on your screen if you're using a mobile. So we have a mobile mode.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Amazing.
fantastic. Right. So those are some of our basic UI components. One thing I wanted to really showcase was probably our most powerful component, or certainly one of them, is our Power Grid component. Over the years, I can't tell you how many Power Apps I've built, which probably started off as Excel spreadsheets somewhere once upon a time. We still see so many processes built on top of Excel. It's still the weapon of choice for many people around the world. I think I read a stat the other day where there's more people that know Excel than can speak any common language in the world, apparently. That's why we see so much Excel. And I think PowerApps does come with a grid at the moment. It only supports sort of read-only scenarios, and over the years, I'm sure you've done so as well, have had to implement many creative solutions using the gallery control to mimic something which supports bulk editing scenarios. So what I really wanted to show you next, Dhruvin, was the Lowcodera Power Grid. So let's load that up. And what you're seeing in front of you is our Lowcodera Power Grid, which really allows you to plot tabular data inside your PowerApps in a way, quite frankly, which is not possible to do today out of the box in your PowerApps, and not just plot your tabular data and display it and present it to your users, but actually offer a first-class editing experience with our grid. So this has a whole bunch of features, and I'll try my best in the interest of time to go through them as quickly as possible and do them justice at the same time. But we probably need a breakout session to talk about some of these components, but I'll try my best. The first thing to probably make mention of, I think in this case here, we're presenting a data source, which I think I grabbed from the internet somewhere. I've loaded it into SharePoint, and it's actually plotting apps on the Windows Store. And I think there's well over 1,000 records. And as you can see, I'm scrolling through them. We've got infinite scroll implemented. So as we continue scrolling, more and more records are being loaded on to the grid. And of course, when you've got large data sets like this, what your users really want to be able to do is find stuff and sort stuff, and our grid supports all of this in the most natural and easy ways to achieve this. So perhaps we want to sort by app name. I can just click on that, and you can see it's now sorting that in ascending order. I click again, as you'd expect, is sorting that in descending order. So I'll just return that to normal. Maybe I am looking for a certain app on the App Store, and of course I could scroll through and find the needle in a haystack here, but I'd expect to be able to search for that. So our grid comes with integrated search. So I'm a SharePoint guy still by heart. That's my roots. And okay, there's only one for SharePoint, so maybe we should search for, there you go, something with server. We've got two apps relating to a server. So that's instant and fast search. I've shown you sort there. What about filtering? The great news here is we've got integrated filtering available. I can do this in one of two ways. So I can click on this filter icon against a column. So let's filter these categories down by perhaps business related tools, and you can see that being reflected in real time as I apply these options. So I'll just click back here, and you can see those options are now applied. So I'm just going to return that back to what it was. And we've got that. I mentioned two ways. The other way is a whole lot more powerful. We can offer our users this filters panel, and you can see all of the different fields which are exposed here can be filtered on, and this obviously creates a combination of filters which are then applied to your data. So we might want all the 5-star. Do we have any here? Yeah. Rated apps, and you can see very fast all those filters are being applied there. So let's drop that back in and let's return that to what it was and leave that there. Now, what you can also see here is some of the data being plotted in fancy ways. We've got a requirement here where we're showing app ratings, and instead of just showing a boring number, our grid allows you to present that in the form of stars, which is obviously perfect for this particular scenario here. What if I wanted to know about app ratings by particular categories? Like, as I said, it's quite difficult to kind of see that in a clear way. So the other thing we support is row grouping, and this allows you to group your data by certain columns. So let's just start with dragging column up to there, and you can see now our data is grouped. The results are grouped by the different categories of apps that we have, and so you can also see the counts of them now as well, which is very useful. And obviously, as you flick that open, you can see your data as you could do before as well. What I find really useful is not just being able to group your data by one level, but actually being able to do that by another level. So I mentioned earlier on, I want to find out what our categories or ratings are by category. So I can actually go ahead and drag rating into there. And you can now see we've got a second level of grouping, which is hierarchical. And we can then see how many different apps are rated by those scales. So super powerful in how that grouping works. There's lots of features, being able to reorder, allowing your users to reorder the column orders. They can just drag and drop, as you can see here, and change that order about. Very natural experience. You can use the keyboard. We support dates, as you can see here. We've got integrate calendar.
I'm speechless, Rahan. Like, this is really amazing. Like, I can't imagine like this type of grid we can do with the PowerApps. I have seen this very first time. Like, this is really amazing. Like,
Thank
I'm
you.
speechless.
Yeah. No, it is very feature packed, and I haven't done it justice. And in fact, probably my favorite feature, and we haven't really talked about, all I've shown you so far is how to display, filter, sort, group the data as an end user. But of course, what people really want to be able to do is manipulate and edit their data, which is what this kind of grid format is really designed to do. And of course, we won't disappoint you there. And when we talk about Excel, I mentioned it earlier on, one of the best features and why people still love Excel is how easy it makes it for people to bulk edit data. And one of the ways it does that is through the fill handle feature. And let's just say we wanted to edit this data here. I'll try not to destroy it. And we wanted to make a whole bunch of apps not free, call them paid. So I can just go into that cell, and you can see here, in terms of bulk editing that scenario, I've only edited one cell, but with the fill handle functionality, I can drag down. Hopefully that's coming through, and immediately you can see that change reflected in a whole bunch of rows. And now I'll just point you towards the toolbar of our Power Grid, which says you've got 12 unsaved rows, and by hitting save, those changes will be committed back through to your data source, which in this case is is SharePoint. So I will find our list here in SharePoint, and I'll just quickly add on the modified column, and I'll just go from newer to older, and you can see here the change has been instantly reflected a few seconds ago as we've
Absolutely.
updated those records. So
Yes. This
there's
is
our Power
amazing,
Grid.
Rahan. This is amazing, Rahan. Like I can't even imagine like how easy it is to achieve lot more thing with this power grid. And this is plug and play component, right, Rahan? Once we provide the data set, this grid is set up for us. We don't need to write any separate code for sorting, searching, everything, correct?
That's absolutely spot on. All of that is built into the control itself. So I know it's quite complex from experience building multiple filters in your apps, and so this really unlocks a lot of use cases where you can develop quite complex data
Yes.
structures which need to be filtered and sorted, and you can provide all that capability now natively to your users. You might be wondering there why some of the um, items there are marked in red. We've got a conditional formatting feature which allows you to implement rules which then format the data as well. And if there's time, Dhruvin, let's maybe show users a bit later on how that works as well.
Absolutely, absolutely, Rahan. And meantime, everyone who are watching us, if you love this grid, just provide your feedback in the comment section. And if you wanted to know more about the end-to-end procedure for configuring grid and all, just provide your feedback in the comment section. So me and Rahan maybe connect next time, and we will show you the end-to-end procedure for configuring this entire stuff and any of the component that we have represented to you so far. If you love any component and if you wanted to know more about that, just provide your feedback in the comment section, or maybe you can visit the website www.lowcodera.com. You will find lots of lookbook there and documentation as well. So feel free to provide your feedback, so based on that we can plan our next series, next sessions as well.
Amazing. Right. So Dhruvin, I think we've covered off a number of UI components, and I'll just get those out of the way. And what I was hoping we could spend the next few minutes on is showing people our data visualization components,
Yes.
because we've got a whole bunch of those. So how does that sound?
Yes, absolutely.
Without further ado, let's go into our data visualization components. And we've got probably about 12 different chart types available to users at the moment. What you're seeing is our Lowcodera column chart. And as I've previously demonstrated, our charts are highly configurable, highly stylable. In fact, you'll see later on when we go through the configuration properties, there's a whole bunch of customization and appearance options available to you as an app maker. So that's our column chart, and you can see the same set of column charts there represented in dark mode. We have bar chart, lots of different plotting options for different types of series. On the top right here, you can see we also support something which we call targets, where you're plotting your data but then want to baseline that against a certain target. You can have that reflected in your bar charts as well. And again, we've got dark mode options. One of my favorites is being able to style your bars with, I don't know if you can see it here, Dhruvin, a background effect. You can see
Yes.
you can add custom backgrounds as a styling options for many of our charts, and you can create some really interesting effects with that. Line charts, very configurable here, as you can see. You can have as many lines as you want plotted, and many different gradient effects on your lines as well. And as with all of our charts, they're interactive. There's your dark mode. flavor. So there's many configuration options, and what I'm going to do at this point is just open up the app in edit mode so I can just show you some of those properties, and it will allow me to probably more quickly demonstrate some of the other charts which are available as well. So I'll just go into it, and I think we were on line chart, but we have area charts, both light and dark mode, just to show you the full range. Mixed charts, which are important because this involves multiple axes data on occasions, and you need to be able to plot series using different chart types, and this combines them all together in a really nice way. Then there's some other stuff which you'd expect: pie charts and donut charts. As you see here, lots of styling options, just like our other charts. Dark mode for those as well. You've got radar charts, again, terrifically animated. And you've also got polar charts at the bottom, which are different to radar charts. And so pretty much all the common charting scenarios are covered for your data. We've even got heat maps, which I particularly like, scatter charts on the right that you can see. And if you want to plot time series data, you can also do that using our timeline chart component. So quite a few different chart types here, Dhruvin.
Okay.
And I think it's probably worth just very quickly just exposing the breadth of our configuration options, which are exposed on our properties. So you can see here a number of different properties which users can configure to change the look and feel of each chart component. And perhaps in a few minutes, what I'll actually do is start from scratch and show our users how easy it is to create a chart. But before then, we've got another component to show. It's one of my personal favorites, and forgive me, it's a crowd pleaser for a number of our early customers and adopters of Lowcodera as well. So let me go over back to the showcase, and let's showcase how strategic roadmap component, which I didn't showcase before. So we're often used to seeing strategic roadmaps like this being presented in PowerPoint. What we've brought is that capability into your Power App directly through this strategic roadmap component. As you can see, it's very stylish in terms of how you plot your data, but it's not just a static representation of your data. You can actually see it plotted in different ways. And if I just load up the other demo, which is a product scenario, you can see I'm able to actually drag and move the data points around in real time to reflect that in the chart. So this is very much an interactive experience for presenting your roadmaps and being able to edit those in real time on a Teams call or whatever the scenario is. I think it's a far more engaging way of doing things. And like the previous example, you can flick between different time spans, whether it's quarter, month, or year, to present that. So I just wanted to showcase this to your users as well, in case that piques their interest. You can also see milestones plotted here, so it's not just durations, and you can see those milestones plotted using iconography on the chart here as well. What do you think, Dhruvin?
Yes, this is really amazing one, because to see this kind of thing in the Power Apps, it's I have seen for the first time. So like dragging and dropping the bars, like to just set the different timelines and all. So this is really cool and
Yeah.
amazing. I'm speechless by seeing this component. So amazing one.
Amazing, amazing. And I made the point earlier on, I think, that the real power in Lowcodera is not just through using components individually, it's when you start using them together, you unlock even more power. So the grid control, you can imagine it's very useful to be able to provide many ways of interacting with the data here, not just dragging and using the interactive features. But here's our grid again with the same data, and we're of course able to manipulate the data here in the charts and able to write that back to the data source, and
Okay.
that's been reflected in real time there as well as you make those changes. So what we're hoping to see is people finding lots of creative ways to use our components beyond just using them individually. So you can actually
Exactly.
create a whole app using our components, and this is an example of that.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely. And Rahan, I just have one question for this component. Like, let's say I just drag one of the bar from one location to another. So at the time that changes are directly reflected to our data source itself, or
That's that's a great question. It's entirely up to the app maker, so you can commit that change in real time to your data source. Um, but what we recommend in these types of scenarios is to implement a save button
Mhm.
to patch those changes after those changes have been made. And so generally the practice I follow is to load the data into a collection, and only at the time when those changes need to be committed to the data source should that actually take place. And the best way of doing that is to have a save button for your users, which then write back those changes. Otherwise, you could have accidental changes
Yes.
being made, which you don't want. But the app maker is fully 100% in control of that whole experience. So whether they want a true
Mhm.
real-time write back or they want to rely on a save mechanism, the options are open to them.
Okay, okay, perfect. Thanks a lot, Rahan. Like, by seeing this component, I'm totally speechless. Now, my question is, the components are looking awesome, amazing. So, how difficult or how easy it is to configure, as a citizen developer or as a regular pro developer? So, if you can show us some demonstration on that part, like if I enroll myself to Lowcodera, how can I enroll myself to the program, as well as how can I get started with the component configuration that would be helpful to us?
Sure, absolutely. So let's try taking you through this step by step. And the first thing that users need to do is go to lowcodera.com, and once they're there, where we are offering people the ability to sign up for a free trial. You can see it signposted quite heavily, and it takes seconds to sign up with your Microsoft account. There's not any long forms or anything like that, so you essentially activated within a few seconds after you've signed up to the trial. And after you've signed up to the trial, you'll get an email, and on that email will be a link to some very basic getting started instructions. And so, again, um, ultimately, there's a link from that email to this area, which is a documentation site for every component and how to get started with Lowcodera. So we've got documentation here, but we've also got a very concise, I think, a 3-minute um, video there on how to get started. And what I would say is there's only a couple of very basic configuration steps. After you've got your account in Lowcodera, you're able to log into Lowcodera, and you're immediately able to download our components from the download section here on the left. So what you need to do after you've got access is download these two components. There's two packages which you need to download. One is for our UI components and one is for our visualization components. What users need to do after they've downloaded the components is import them into their environment in the PowerApps solutions area, and they simply hit import, browse to where they've downloaded those files, and that will import those packages into their environment. And at that point, they are ready to use inside of their PowerApps. As I said, the only other caveat is you need to make sure the admin setting to enable PCF components is also activated on your environment. And once you've done those basic steps, you are ready to build PowerApps using Lowcodera components. And so what I was going to do was very much start from scratch here, and we will call this Dhruvin's Showcase app. And there's nothing new at this point. This is just creating a very much a vanilla Canvas app. The first thing you need to do to use Lowcodera components is head over here to this plus button along the left, and if you come down, there's a section called Get More Components, and the Get More Components will open up this panel on the right, and from here, if you successfully imported in the Lowcodera solutions, they will start being listed in this code tab here, ready for you to start importing in. Now, the first one that you always want to import in is the Lowcodera UI Assets component. This is our master component, and it's the one that's needed in every app to make all of the other Lowcodera components work. So I've just added that one in there, and it's now appearing under Code Components as Lowcodera UI Assets. And I'll just drag that onto my canvas. And the next point I want to make is that all the other components do not work unless you have a valid subscription to Lowcodera. So if you've signed up for the trial, you're allowed to use our components for 14 days, and thereafter you need to sign up to a subscription. Maybe we can talk about subscriptions later, but there's one other input that this control expects for it all to work, and that is something which we refer to as an app token. And these are tokens which are generated from the Lowcodera admin portal. So if I go back to the Lowcodera admin portal and head over to a section called App Tokens, the way Lowcodera works is that if you want to use our components in one of your apps, you need to generate a token for that specific app. However, if you're just building an app in App Studio, as we're about to do, you can get by with a dev token, and these are unlimited with your subscription. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on this dev token, and that gets copied to my clipboard, and I'm going to come back into my app, and I'm going to paste that app token in, and immediately what that tells me is when my token is going to expire. And I can see in this case I've got till the 31st of August, so no worries there, and it's a dev token is what that is telling me. Now that I've added the UI assets component onto the screen and I've added a dev token, it means I can add any other Lowcodera component onto my screen. So why don't I go ahead and do that, and I'll just start with a very simple button component, and I'll add that to the canvas here, and we'll just call it test button because I haven't got much of an imagination right now. And you can start setting the different theming options from the properties, and you can start changing the look and feel of that. Without a valid app token, let's just get rid of that for a second. You can see that button no longer renders properly without that. So you need a proper token to make it all work. So what I was thinking we could do, Dhruvin, is just show users how easy it is to create a chart using Lowcodera. How does that sound?
Yes, definitely. You can do that. We can quickly do one bar chart or something like that.
Yeah, let's go with the bar chart. And what I first need to do is make sure I've got that component added to my list of code components. So I'll look for bar chart. There it is. I'll import it in. And what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly add it on to the screen. And of course, it needs to be plotted against some data to render anything. So how do I do that? Well, let's work through just some very quick examples of how this works. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our documentation site, docs.lowcodera.com, because one of the great things about that is it provides lots of ready-made examples which will help you get started with Lowcodera. And these are very much copy and paste examples. So I'll just go to this bar chart example here, which is plotting some population data for some countries. I don't know if it's real or not. It doesn't look real, but we'll go back to our Power App. And what we need to do is, for the purposes of this demonstration, just to show you how it's working, I'm going to add on a out-of-the-box button control, which hopefully our users will be familiar with. And I'm going to paste in that code onto the onSelect event for that button. And what you see here is our data schema for our charts. And in this example, what we're going to do is essentially create a collection which has the data for our chart inside of it directly. And then we're going to bind that collection to our bar chart. So I need to hit this button to generate that collection. And that collection is now in memory, and it's called the bar chart collection. And all I need to do now is go back to my chart, select it, select my collection, and boom, you can see that chart has been instantly plotted there in real time. And I can immediately start configuring the properties on the right. So let's add a chart title over there. Perhaps I want to add a subtitle, which I can do if needed be. I'll just that. So that's a very basic way of generating a chart in your Power App within a few seconds. But I'm sure you'll agree, Dhruvin, that in most scenarios, your data is not going to be hard-coded into your Power App, and that data actually lives in one of your data sources. So how do we do that is the question. So what I've got is a scenario prepared where if I go to my SharePoint site and just go to site contents for a second, I think I have a list. It's called population list. And this is obviously looking more plausible now as a real scenario where you've got some data in a SharePoint list. There's a bunch of countries. And in this scenario, I've got the population plotted in the year 2000 and the year 2021. So let's see how we can use Lowcodera components to perhaps plot in the bar chart both the population in the year 2000 and the year 2021. How do we do that? So let's go to the Power App. And just to keep it nice and clean, I'm just going to get rid of the old example, and I'm also going to clear out the power effects in this button. I'm going to drag on a new bar chart, and of course it's empty. What I'm going to do is connect to my SharePoint data source, and it's on this site, and it's called population list. So there's nothing new here for our users. All we're doing is connecting to our SharePoint data source. And what we need to do is similar to before. We need to create a collection which is in accordance to our column schema to then bind that to our bar chart. And again, what I find really helpful in these scenarios is the documentation area, which provides lots of examples. In this case, earlier on, it was a static collection, but now we've also got some simple examples of binding to dynamic data. So I am, again, just going to copy that. I'm going to come back into my Power App, and I'm going to paste that into the onSelect event. And on this occasion, I'm expecting an error because there's no way we can know what your data source is going to be called in your app. So the first thing you need to do is, in this scenario here, is change the name of this data source. Pretty close in this example, but not quite right. It's called population list. And of course, if we go back to our SharePoint list, we have very specific names for our columns, and we need to adjust that. So what we're doing here is just setting up what we want to pull through into the chart, and there's essentially a label and a value that we need to pull through. And using this simple Power Effects code, what we need to do is for the label is set that to the title field, and that error goes away. And in this case here, I think we're going to start with the year 2000 population, and let's leave that as it is. And this part of the schema here defines what the series name is going to be called. So I'm going to call it population 2000, and I'm simply now going to press that button to generate that collection, and I'm going to bind that collection to this chart. And here we go. We've now got a chart which is populating that population data as it is coming from SharePoint. In this example, I'll just go on to configure a couple of additional properties. And as you can see, there's many. The one I'm looking for in this case is to make sure in this scenario here that the x-axis data type is not set to a category, it's a numeric field, and that provides the number formatting on the axes as well. And that's how you bind to a single series bar chart. But in this scenario, of course, you would have noticed from the data source, we've also got data for the year 2021. So how do we add that on? We come back and we go back to our button which generates our collection. It's quite simple. All you need to do, it's pretty much JSON here that we're dealing with, is add, copy and paste. And now we've got a second series. I'll call that 2021. That's population 2021. And instead of a value at this moment, you will see it's the year 2000 still. I will pull through from our column, which is the year 2021. And here we are. We now have a chart which is got two series on it, and we can actually already start to see the differences in the populations between the early part of the century and where we are right now. And you can see we can, as I've demonstrated before, play around with those different options. Just a couple more things. You might want to play with the styling. We offer a number of different themes, so I can just flick between these and you can see the colors immediately change to our nice out of the box pellets. What we're not showing you today is how you can have your own colors for your series, and there's a lot of configuration options to change the appearance. One other thing I like with this particular chart type is being able to, if I go up, present it as a stacked chart, so you can see there the population is now on one line for each country. You can even show it as a stacked 100% chart, so you can see what the proportionate difference is for that. So hopefully that was nice and quick, Dhruvin.
Yes, absolutely. So, if I understood here correctly, Rahan, like we can simply need to plug and play our component. So we just need to drag our component, just need to go to the website and just need to check the schema, how the data schema is looking like, and then just provide that schema to our chat and our chat is ready to use, right?
100%. And what you'll find is after you've done it once or twice, it's a very easy learning process, and you'll be creating charts for all sorts of different scenarios very, very quickly. So
Yes.
that's our chart component.
Absolutely. Rahan, can you please go to your website so that I can show my audience that how the documentation is created there and how they can proceed with. So
Yes.
to start with Lowcodera, everyone can just go to the docs.lowcodera.com, and they have two sort of pieces: UI components and visualization component, and you can simply click on any of the component which you love the most. But before that, as Rahan mentioned at the very beginning, you need to basically put your UI asset component, and after that you can proceed any of the component from this list. And they have very detailed guideline documentation over there, so you can just play around that and just create your components as well. So I recommend everyone to just activate trial and even try it by your own. And if you have any question after that, maybe you can directly reach out in the videos comment section, or maybe you can directly reach out to Rahan on his LinkedIn directly. So he would happy to help you on that part. And don't forget to follow on Lowcodera's official website as well as its YouTube channel. So I will provide all the links in the description. So moving forward as well, if they have more and more content, they will upload there and you will get to know more about that thing in detail.
Great. Fantastic. Maybe there's one more, which I alluded to it earlier on, our grid component and the conditional formatting. I just want to show people how easy it is to add conditional formatting
Sure.
logic to the different apps. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly save that app. And Dhruvin, we talked earlier on about the grid component, and we'll leave it for another session where we talk about all the configuration options and how to make the best use of them. But what I wanted to just quickly highlight was how we can do things like conditional formatting in our grid, and it's very simple. We have the grid, and something that goes along with the grid is our column schema definitions, which allow us to implement advanced functionality for any given column. And you can see here in that number of people rated column, we've got a conditional formatting rule. The one we had earlier on was if anything is less than 300, let's color it in red. So that means it's not got many ratings. But on the flip side, perhaps we wanted to also show cases where we've got lots of ratings over a certain threshold, and they should perhaps appear in green. So all we need to do is add another condition here to this branch. And in this case, it's quite simply going to be anything greater than 700. Let's change that to green. And actually, if I now reload the grid, I'll make it slightly bigger. You can see now anything over that threshold is now being shown in green.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So this is fantastic, and I just wanted to tell all the viewers who are watching this, like let's say the grid component which Rahan demonstrated us earlier, how easy to configure it. So Rahan, if you just close the edit mode, um, of that, so it's just a one component, and every configuration is, just by configuring the different properties on the right hand side, and you are good to go with your power grid. So this is really amazing, and obviously you need to read the documentation from official Lowcodera site, and after that you can just follow the steps and you are good to configure this particular power grid for your app. And I just have one quick question, Rahan, like as
Sure.
you mentioned, like this power grid is supported our real data sources as well. So which are the recommend data sources in order to work with this power grid, like SharePoint, Dataverse? What are those data sources which are supported?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a number of data sources which people commonly work with when they're working with data in their Power Apps. So it supports SharePoint. We've tested with Excel. Of course, Dataverse is supported. So it's whatever you want really, as long as you can connect to it in your Power App, then you can render the data onto our grid. So the great thing about Power Apps is there's so many things you can connect to, and so many different places where the data might actually be. And the great news now is you can bring it all into here and edit it in bulk.
Mhm. Perfect, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so thanks a lot, Rahan, like for this, how easy it is to configure all our component with Lowcodera. So now my next point as a commercial part. So what is the licensing for this component and how someone can proceed with that, or the site URL where all these things are mentioned? If you can show us, that would be great.
Absolutely. So the best place to go to find out what our different subscription plans are is to visit the website and head over to the pricing page. So to use Lowcodera, after your trial, you do need to purchase one of our subscriptions. And what we've tried to do is make it really fair and link it to the size of the organization. And ultimately, Lowcodera is licensed by a number of apps in which you want to use our components in. And we use this concept of an app token. And the more app tokens you need, the higher up in terms of subscription plans you need to go to. The other thing which I think is really great about our licensing plan is that it supports unlimited users. And so whether your users of your apps, are small, whether you have a few handful, 5, 10 users of an app, or whether you have hundreds of users or even thousands in some cases, we're not going to charge you for each user. It's simply a case of getting a token for your app.
Mm-hmm. All right, that's great, Rahan. That helps us to understand the licensing. And even from the audience, whoever has any question about licensing, feel free to reach out Rahan directly on his LinkedIn account. The links are available in the description box, or maybe you can directly visit the website, and from there you can directly contact Lowcodera. So they will help you to understand more about the licensing for your business requirements.
Amazing. And yes, any questions anyone has, feel free to reach out to me directly or through Dhruvin. He will no doubt pass stuff on to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, thank you so much, Rahan, for this wonderful presentation on next generation Power Apps. I can truly say, like, really, it's next generation because it has lots of capability that we are doing with our regular Canvas apps. So, this is really, really amazing, and I really appreciate your time for presenting this entire thing with us, because many people are not aware about this new era that we have with Lowcodera. So this is absolutely amazing. And with that, I would like to end up this session. If anyone has any question or any concerns about licensing and all, feel free to reach out directly to Rahan or directly click on contact page from Lowcodera. They will happy to help you on that part. So with this, I'm about to end up this session. So once again, thank you so much, Rahan, for your precious time to present everything to our audience.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me again. And one more thing, which I forgot, I should have added at the start. Congratulations on 20K followers, Dhruvin.
Okay, thank you so much, Rahan. Thank you so much. It's like audience is something which is my strength, and people love to watch my content. So I would like to thank my audience as well. Like it's something without your support, it's not possible for me to reach up to this point. So thanks a lot.
You're a true rock star. What can I say? In the
Thanks a
space.
lot. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. All right. So I
Amazing.
think we are about to end, but before that, let me just share my screen and start with the ending procedure. So if anyone is for the first time to my channel, make sure you hit subscribe and press the bell notification to never miss any updates from me. I'm uploading regular content on Power BI, Power Apps, Power Automate, Power Virtual Agents, Teams, and SharePoint on my channel. So stay tuned so you will never miss any updates from my channel. Also, I have different social media handles on my page like Twitter, Instagram, podcast platform. So you can connect me through any of my social media handles where I'm uploading regular content on the different stuff. Also, if you are interested for short content and regional Hindi content on Power Platform, the dedicated channel is created called Digital Dhruvin. Subscribe that channel and show your love over here as well. With this, me Dhruvin signing off. See you in the next session with some amazing content. Till then, have a great day. Goodbye.